My name is Elena Martinez, and I need to tell you about the day my entire world collapsed, only to discover that sometimes our greatest betrayals lead us to our most unexpected blessings. I am 71 years old, and I have lived through many difficult moments, but nothing prepared me for what my own family would do to me when I needed them most. For the past 8 years, I had been living with my daughter Sophia and her husband Marcus in their beautiful home in Phoenix, Arizona. After my husband Carlos passed away from a heart attack, Sophia insisted that I move in with them. "Mama, you cannot live alone anymore," she had said with tears in her eyes. "This house is big enough for all of us, and I want Isabella to grow up knowing her grandmother." Isabella was my granddaughter, now 15 years old, and the light of my life. She was a beautiful, intelligent girl, with Carlos's dark eyes and Sophia's kind heart. I had spent the last 8 years helping to raise her, cooking traditional Mexican meals for the family and contributing what I could from my modest Social Security checks to the household expenses. Marcus worked as a real estate agent, and Sophia was a part-time nurse at the local hospital. They seemed to be doing well financially, living in a large 4-bedroom house in an upscale neighborhood, driving nice cars, and taking family vacations every year. I always felt grateful that they had welcomed me into their home, even though sometimes I wondered if Marcus truly wanted me there. Marcus was not a bad man, but he was practical and focused on money in a way that sometimes made me uncomfortable. He would often make comments about expenses, about the cost of groceries, about the electric bill being too high. Sometimes I caught him looking at me with an expression I could not quite read, as if he were calculating something in his mind. But Sophia loved me, and Isabella adored spending time with her abuela. I taught Isabella how to make tamales from scratch, how to speak Spanish properly, and shared stories about her grandfather Carlos and our life in Mexico before we immigrated to the United States 40 years ago. These were the happiest years of my widowhood, feeling useful and loved and needed. Everything changed on a Tuesday morning in October. I had been feeling tired for several weeks, more exhausted than usual, and I was having trouble catching my breath when I climbed the stairs to my bedroom. Isabella had noticed that I was moving more slowly, and she insisted that I see a doctor. "Abuela, you need to go to the hospital where Mama works," she said, with the determination of a teenager who cares deeply about her grandmother. "Something is not right, and I am worried about you." Sophia agreed and made an appointment for me with Dr. Patterson, a cardiologist at the hospital where she worked. I did not want to be a burden or cause unnecessary worry, but I could not ignore the symptoms any longer. The appointment was on a Thursday morning. Sophia took the day off work to drive me to the hospital, and I could see the concern in her eyes as we sat in the waiting room. Dr. Patterson was a kind man in his 50s who spoke to me in both English and Spanish, making sure I understood everything he was explaining. After a series of tests, including an echocardiogram and blood work, Dr. Patterson called Sophia and me into his office. His expression was serious, and I felt my stomach drop with anxiety. "Mrs. Martinez," he began gently, "I need to discuss your test results with you. You have what we call congestive heart failure. Your heart is not pumping blood as effectively as it should, which is why you have been feeling so tired and short of breath." I felt the room spinning around me. "What does that mean, doctor? Am I going to die?" "Mrs. Martinez, congestive heart failure is a serious condition, but it is manageable with proper treatment and lifestyle changes. You will need to take medications daily, follow a strict low-sodium diet, and limit your physical activity. You will also need regular follow-up appointments to monitor your condition." Sophia was crying quietly beside me. "Doctor, what is the prognosis? How long does my mother have?" Dr. Patterson chose his words carefully. "With proper management, many patients with congestive heart failure live for many years. However, Mrs. Martinez, I must be honest with you. This is a progressive condition. Over time, it may become more difficult to manage, and there may come a point where more intensive care is needed. The drive home was silent, except for Sophia's occasional sniffles. When we arrived at the house, Marcus was waiting in the living room. He had taken the afternoon off work, which was unusual for him. "Well?" he asked immediately. "What did the doctor say?" Sophia explained the diagnosis while I sat quietly on the couch, still trying to process everything I had heard. Marcus listened without saying a word, his face growing more serious with each detail. "So she needs medications and regular doctor visits," he said when Sophia finished. "How much is this going to cost? Does Medicare cover everything?" I was hurt by his immediate focus on money, but I tried to be understanding. "Marcus, I will pay for my own medical expenses. I do not want to be a burden on your family." "Mama, do not say that," Sophia said quickly. "You are not a burden. We will figure this out together." But Marcus was already calculating in his mind. "Sophia, we need to be realistic about this. Your mother is going to need more care as this condition progresses. We both work full-time, and Isabella has school and activities. We cannot provide the level of care she is going to need." "What are you saying?" Sophia asked, her voice tight with tension. "I am saying we need to start looking into other options. There are excellent assisted living facilities in the area, places where she can get proper medical care and supervision." I felt like I had been slapped. "Marcus, I do not need assisted living. I can take care of myself. I just need to take some medications and be more careful about my activities." "Elena, be realistic," he said, using my first name instead of calling me Mom like he usually did. "This is only going to get worse. You are going to need more help, more medical attention, and frankly, we cannot afford to provide that level of care while maintaining our current lifestyle." Sophia looked shocked. "Marcus, what are you talking about? Mama has been living with us for 8 years. She helps with Isabella, she contributes to the household expenses, and she is family." "Sophia, I love your mother, but we have to think about our future, about Isabella's future. The cost of caring for someone with congestive heart failure is enormous. The medications alone are going to be hundreds of dollars a month. And what happens when she needs more intensive care? What happens when she can no longer climb the stairs to her bedroom? What happens when she needs full-time supervision?" I sat there listening to them discuss my future, as if I were not in the room. Isabella came downstairs and immediately sensed the tension in the air. "What is going on?" she asked, looking between her parents and me. "Sweetheart, your grandmother is sick," Sophia said gently. "She has a heart condition that requires treatment and care." Isabella immediately came to sit beside me on the couch, taking my hand in hers. "Abuela, are you going to be okay?" I squeezed her hand and managed a smile. "Sí, mi amor, I will be fine. The doctors will help me, and I will take good care of myself." Marcus watched this interaction with what looked like impatience. "Isabella, your grandmother is going to need special care that we cannot provide here. We are looking into places where she can get proper medical attention." Isabella's eyes filled with tears. "What do you mean, special places? Abuela lives here with us. This is her home." "Isabella, sometimes adults have to make difficult decisions," Marcus said firmly. "This is what is best for everyone, including your grandmother." That evening, after Isabella went to bed, Marcus sat Sophia and me down for what he called a serious conversation about the future. "I have been doing some research," he began, pulling out printed pages from the internet. "There are several assisted living facilities in the Phoenix area that specialize in cardiac care. Some of them have excellent ratings and provide round-the-clock medical supervision." "Marcus, I cannot afford assisted living," I said quietly. "My Social Security check is barely enough to cover my basic expenses." "That is exactly my point," Marcus replied. "These facilities cost between $3,000 and $5,000 a month. Obviously, we cannot afford to pay that on top of our mortgage, Isabella's expenses, and our other bills." Sophia was staring at her husband with an expression I had never seen before. "Marcus, what exactly are you suggesting?" "I am suggesting that we contact social services and see what options are available for low-income seniors who need medical care. There are state-funded facilities that provide basic care for people in Elena's situation." The words "Elena's situation" hit me like a physical blow. I was no longer Sophia's mother or Isabella's grandmother in his mind. I was a problem to be solved, a burden to be managed. "State-funded facilities?" Sophia repeated slowly. "You are talking about putting my mother in a state-run nursing home?" "Sophia, we have to be practical. We cannot afford private care, and we cannot provide the level of medical supervision she is going to need. It is not fair to any of us, including Elena, to pretend otherwise." I stood up slowly, feeling every one of my 71 years. "I need some time to think about this," I said quietly. "This has been a very difficult day." As I walked toward the stairs to my bedroom, I heard Sophia and Marcus begin to argue in hushed tones. Their voices followed me up the stairs, and I could hear Sophia crying. That night, I lay in my bed staring at the ceiling, wondering how my life had changed so dramatically in a single day. This morning, I had been a beloved grandmother living peacefully with my family. Tonight, I was a sick old woman who was being discussed like a financial burden. But what Marcus did not know, what nobody in my family knew, was that I was not the poor dependent mother-in-law he thought I was. Hidden away in a safety deposit box at the bank was a secret I had kept for over 20 years. A secret that would change everything, but only if I lived long enough to reveal it. As I listened to Sophia crying downstairs and felt my heart struggling with each beat, I wondered if I should tell them the truth. But something told me to wait, to see what kind of people they really were when they thought I had nothing to offer except problems and expenses. Little did I know that the next morning would bring a conversation that would shatter my heart even more than my medical diagnosis had. I woke up the next morning to the sound of raised voices coming from the kitchen below. My heart was beating irregularly, which Dr. Patterson had warned me might happen, and I felt dizzy when I tried to sit. Up in bed, I could hear Marcus and Sophia arguing, their voices carrying up through the old house's thin floors. "Marcus, I cannot believe you are even suggesting this," Sophia was saying, her voice thick with emotion. "She is my mother. She raised me. She helped us raise Isabella. And now you want to throw her away the moment she needs our help?" "I am not throwing her away," Marcus replied, his voice cold and calculating. "I am being realistic about what we can and cannot afford. Do you have any idea what caring for someone with congestive heart failure is going to cost us? The medications, the doctor visits, the eventual need for full-time care? We could lose this house, Sophia. We could lose everything we have worked for." I slowly got dressed and made my way downstairs, holding on to the banister with each step. As I entered the kitchen, both Sophia and Marcus stopped talking and looked at me with guilty expressions. "Good morning," I said quietly, walking to the coffee maker that Sophia had already started. "Buenos dias, Mama," Sophia said softly. "How are you feeling this morning?" "I am managing," I replied honestly. "The medication the doctor prescribed is making me feel a little dizzy, but I suppose that is normal." Marcus was sitting at the kitchen table with his laptop open and papers spread around him. I could see that he had been researching nursing, homes and assisted living facilities. The sight of those printed pages made my stomach turn. "Elena, we need to continue our conversation from last night," Marcus said, without any warmth in his voice. "I have been looking into options for your care, and I think I have found some reasonable solutions." Sophia shot her husband a warning look. "Marcus, maybe we should wait until later to discuss this. Mama just woke up." "No, Sophia, we need to address this now," Marcus said firmly. "The longer we wait, the more complicated and expensive this situation becomes." I poured myself a cup of coffee with trembling hands and sat down at the table across from Marcus. "What have you found?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Marcus turned his laptop screen toward me, showing a web page for something called Sunset Manor Extended Care Facility. The building in the photographs looked institutional and depressing, with beige walls and fluorescent lighting. "This facility accepts Medicaid patients," Marcus explained, his tone businesslike and cold. "They have a cardiac care unit, and the state covers most of the costs for qualifying residents. I have already called them, and they have availability." Sophia was staring at her husband with an expression of complete shock. "Marcus, you called them? Without discussing it with me first?" "Sophia, we do not have time to debate this endlessly," Marcus snapped. "Your mother needs more care than we can provide, and we cannot afford private facilities. This is the most practical solution." I looked at the photographs on the screen, showing elderly people sitting in wheelchairs in a sterile-looking common room. "Marcus, this looks like a place where people go to die." "Elena, do not be dramatic," he replied. "This is a licensed medical facility with qualified staff. You will receive proper care for your condition." "But Marcus," Sophia said, her voice breaking, "Mama does not need that level of care yet. Dr. Patterson said she can manage her condition with medication and lifestyle changes. She can still live independently with some support." Marcus closed the laptop with a sharp snap. "Sophia, you are being naive. Your mother had a heart attack waiting to happen, and now she has congestive heart failure. This is only going to get worse, and when it does, we need to be prepared." "I did not have a heart attack," I said quietly. "Dr. Patterson was very clear about that. I have heart failure, but it is manageable." "For now," Marcus said pointedly. "But what happens in 6 months when you can no longer climb the stairs? What happens when you fall and break your hip? What happens when you need someone to help you bathe and dress and take your medications? Are you expecting Sophia to quit her job to become your full-time caregiver?" The questions hung in the air like accusations. I could see that Marcus had thought through every possible scenario, and in his mind, I was destined to become an increasing burden on their family. "Marcus, there are other options," Sophia said desperately. "We could hire a part-time caregiver to check on Mama during the day. We could install safety equipment in the house. We could—" "With what money, Sophia?" Marcus interrupted. "Do you know how much home health care costs? Do you know how much it would cost to retrofit this house for an elderly person with a heart condition? We are already stretched thin financially, and adding these expenses would put us in serious debt." I had heard enough. "Marcus, let me ask you something directly. Do you want me to leave your house?" The question seemed to catch him off guard. He looked at Sophia, then back at me, and I could see him struggling with how to answer honestly without appearing completely heartless. "Elena, this is not about what I want," he said finally. "This is about what is practical and financially responsible for our family." "That is not what I asked," I pressed. "I asked if you want me to leave your house." Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Then he said words that I will never forget as long as I live. "Yes, Elena. I think it would be better for everyone, including you, if you move to a facility where you can receive proper medical care." Sophia gasped and put her hand over her mouth. "Marcus, how can you say that?" "Because it is the truth, Sophia," Marcus replied. "I am tired of pretending that this situation is sustainable. Your mother is sick. She is only going to get sicker, and we cannot afford to care for her properly. The responsible thing to do is to find her a place where qualified medical professionals can monitor her condition." I stood up slowly, my legs feeling weak beneath me. "I see. And when would you like me to leave?" "Mama, you are not going anywhere," Sophia said quickly, standing up and putting her arm around my shoulders. "This is your home." But Marcus continued, as if Sophia had not spoken. "I think we should make arrangements as soon as possible. The longer we wait, the more difficult it will be for everyone." "As soon as possible," I repeated. You mean within days? Within weeks? I was thinking by the end of the month, Marcus said matter-of-factly. That gives us time to complete the paperwork for Medicaid and get you settled in the facility. Sophia was crying now. Marcus, this is my mother. You are talking about her like she is an unwanted piece of furniture. Sophia, I am talking about. Her like an adult who needs more medical care than we can provide, Marcus said, his patience clearly wearing thin. This emotional reaction is not helping anyone. Just then, Isabella came downstairs for breakfast before school. She took one look at our faces and immediately knew something terrible was happening. "What is going on?" she asked, looking between her parents and me with growing alarm. "Nothing, sweetheart," I said quickly, trying to protect her from this awful conversation. Just adult discussions. But Isabella was not fooled. "Dad, why is Mom crying? Why does Abuela look so sad?" Marcus looked at his daughter with an expression that was almost annoyed. "Isabella, your grandmother needs special medical care that we cannot provide here at home. We are looking into facilities where she can get proper treatment." Isabella's face went white. "You are sending Abuela away?" "Isabella, we are finding her a place where she can get better medical care," Marcus said, trying to sound reasonable. "But this is her home," Isabella said, her voice rising. "She lives here with us. She is family." "Isabella, sometimes families have to make difficult decisions," Marcus said in the same tone he had used the night before. "No," Isabella said firmly, moving to stand beside me. "Abuela is not going anywhere. This is her house too." Marcus's patience finally snapped. "Isabella, this is not your decision to make. You are 15 years old and you do not understand the financial realities of this situation." "I understand that you want to get rid of my grandmother because she is sick," Isabella shot back with the brutal honesty that only teenagers possess. "Isabella, that is enough," Marcus said sharply. "Go get ready for school. I am not going to school today," Isabella declared. "I am staying here with Abuela." "Yes, you are going to school," Marcus said, his voice taking on a threatening tone. "And you are going to stop this dramatic behavior right now." Sophia finally found her voice. Again. "Marcus, stop. Isabella has a right to be upset. We all do." Marcus turned on his wife with an expression of fury. "Sophia, you need to decide right now whether you are going to support me in this decision or undermine me in front of our daughter." The ultimatum hung in the air like a toxic cloud. Sophia looked at her husband, then at me, then at Isabella, and I could see her heart breaking in real time. "I need some time to think," Sophia said quietly. "There is nothing to think about," Marcus replied coldly. "I have already started the paperwork for Sunset Manor. Elena will be moving there at the end of the month, and that is final." I looked at this man who had seemed like a reasonable person for 8 years, and I realized I had never really known him at all. In his mind, I had been tolerable as long as I was useful and not expensive. The moment I became a potential financial burden, I became disposable. "Very well," I said quietly. "If that is your decision, I will respect it." "Mama, no," Sophia said desperately. "Please do not agree to this. We can work something out." But I was done fighting. "Sophia, your husband has made his feelings very clear. I will not stay where I am not wanted." "You are wanted," Sophia insisted. "You are my mother, and I want you here." "But your husband does not," I replied. "And this is his house too." Marcus looked satisfied that I had accepted his decision. "Elena, I think you will find that Sunset Manor provides excellent care. You will be much happier there." I nodded and started to leave the kitchen, but then I turned back to face Marcus one more time. "Marcus, let me ask you one final question. If you were 71 years old and diagnosed with heart failure, would you want your son-in-law to send you to a state-run nursing home?" For the first time since this conversation began, Marcus looked uncomfortable. That is different, Elena. That is a hypothetical situation. No, Marcus, it is not hypothetical. It is my reality. And someday, when you are old and sick, it might be your reality too. As I walked upstairs to my bedroom, I could hear Isabella crying and Sophia trying to comfort her. I could hear Marcus defending his decision with cold, practical arguments. Sat on my bed and looked around the room that had been my sanctuary for 8 years. This was where I had recovered from Carlos's death, where I had found peace and purpose in helping to raise Isabella, where I had felt like I belonged to a family again. But Marcus was right about one thing. This was not really my home. It was his house, and he had every legal right to decide who lived in it. What he did not know was that I owned 3 rental properties in California that brought in substantial monthly income. What he did not know was that I had over $2 million in investments and savings accounts. What he did not know was that I could afford the finest private care available, or I could buy my own house and hire full-time medical staff if I wanted to. But I had kept my wealth secret for good reasons, and now I was learning exactly what kind of people my daughter had married into. Marcus had revealed his true character, and it was uglier than I had ever imagined. As I sat there planning my next move, I heard a soft knock on my bedroom door. "Come in," I called. Isabella entered, with tears streaming down her face. "Abuela, I am so sorry. I cannot believe my father is doing this to you." I patted the bed beside me, and she sat down and put her head on my shoulder. "Mi amor, your father believes he is doing what is best for everyone." "He is being horrible," Isabella said angrily. "You are not a burden. You are family." I stroked her hair and felt my heart breaking for this beautiful girl who was learning that the world could be a cruel and disappointing place. "Isabella, I want you to remember something very important," I said softly. "How people treat you when you are vulnerable tells you everything you need to know about their character." "I will never forgive him for this," Isabella said fiercely. "Do not say that, mi amor. He is your father, and you will need to find a way to live with this decision." But even as I comforted Isabella, I was making plans. Marcus wanted me gone because he thought I was poor and would become expensive. He was about to learn that he had made the biggest mistake of his life. By the end of this month, I would be gone from his house, but not to some depressing state-run facility. I had other plans entirely, plans that would teach Marcus and Sophia exactly what they had thrown away. 2 weeks passed after that terrible morning conversation, and the atmosphere in the house became unbearable. Marcus had already submitted the EBE paperwork to Sunset Manor and informed me that I would be moving there in exactly 10 days. Sophia had stopped speaking to her husband except when absolutely necessary, and Isabella refused to eat dinner with the family, choosing instead to bring her meals to my room where we would eat together. During those 2 weeks, I quietly began making my own arrangements, but not the kind that Marcus expected. I made several phone calls to my financial advisor, my lawyer, and my real estate agent in California. I also made some very special arrangements that would soon surprise everyone in this house. On a Wednesday morning, 10 days before my supposed move to Sunset Manor, I asked Sophia to drive me to the bank. I told her I needed to close my checking account and retrieve some important documents from my safety deposit box. "Mama, you do not need to close your account yet," Sophia said sadly as we drove through Phoenix traffic. "Maybe we can still figure out another solution." "Sophia, your husband has made his decision very clear," I replied calmly. "It is time for me to make my own decisions about my future." At the bank, I asked Sophia to wait in the lobby while I accessed my safety deposit box. The bank manager, Mr. Thompson, had been handling my accounts for 15 years and greeted me warmly. "Mrs. Martinez, how can we help you today?" he asked as he led me to the private room where I could access my box. "Mr. Thompson, I need to make some significant changes to my accounts," I said. and I am going to need some very specific documentation prepared. What I did at the bank that day would have shocked Sophia and Marcus beyond belief, but I was not ready to reveal everything yet. I had one more test to conduct, one final way to measure the true character of the people who claimed to love me. That evening, I asked for a family meeting in the living room. Marcus, Sophia, and Isabella gathered around, with Marcus looking impatient and checking his phone constantly. "I have something important to tell all of you," I began, sitting in the chair that had become my usual spot over the past 8 years. "I have been thinking about Marcus's decision, and I believe he is right." Sophia's face crumpled. "Mama, no. Please do not say that." "Let me finish," I continued. "Marcus is right that I need more specialized care than you can provide. However, I will not be going to Sunset Manor." Marcus looked up from his phone with surprise. "What do you mean? We have already completed the paperwork." "I have made other arrangements," I said calmly. "I will be moving to a private assisted living facility that specializes in cardiac care." "Mama, how can you afford a private facility?" Sophia asked with confusion. "Those places cost thousands of dollars a month." I looked directly at Marcus as I answered. "I have some savings that I have not mentioned before." Marcus immediately became interested. "How much savings, Elena?" "Enough to cover my care for the rest of my life," I replied, without giving specific details. "But Mama, why did you never tell us you had savings?" Sophia asked. "We have been so worried about the financial burden." "Because I wanted to see what kind of people you really were when you thought I had nothing to offer except problems and expenses," I said quietly. The room went silent. Marcus's face was turning red, and I could see his mind racing as he began to understand the implications of what I had just said. "Elena, exactly how much money are we talking about?" he asked, his voice tight with tension. "More than enough," I replied. "But Marcus, that is no longer your concern. You made it very clear that you wanted me out of your house because you believed I would be a financial burden. Well, I will no longer be your burden." "Mama, where are you going to live?" Isabella asked, tears starting to form in her eyes. "I have purchased a house," I said simply. "You purchased a house?" Sophia repeated in shock. "Mama, how could you afford to buy a house?" I stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the neighborhood where I'd lived for 8 years. "There are many things about me that you do not know, Sophia, many things I chose not to share because I believed family love should not depend on money." Marcus was staring at me with an expression I had never seen before. "Elena, I think you need to be more specific about your financial situation." "Why, Marcus?" I asked, turning back to face him. 2 weeks ago, you were eager to send me to a state-run nursing home. You made it very clear that my financial circumstances were irrelevant because you assumed I was poor. Why are my finances suddenly important to you now?" Because if you have money, then we could have made different arrangements." He stammered. "What kind of different arrangements?" I pressed. "Are you saying that if you had known I had money, you would not have wanted to send me away?" Marcus opened and closed his mouth several times, unable to find words that would not make him sound exactly as greedy and shallow as he was revealing himself to be. "Mama," Sophia said quietly, "how much money do you have?" I walked back to my chair and sat down, looking at each of them carefully. "I own 3 rental properties in Los Angeles that generate approximately $8,000 per month in income. I have $2,400,000 in various investment and savings accounts. And as of this morning, I own a beautiful house in Scottsdale that I purchased with cash." The silence that followed was deafening. Marcus looked like he had been struck by lightning. Sophia's mouth was hanging open in shock. Isabella was staring at me, as if I had just revealed that I was a secret superhero. $2 million, Marcus whispered. 400,000, I finished. Plus the monthly rental income, plus my Social Security, plus the value of my new house. Marcus suddenly stood up and began pacing around the living room. "Elena, why would you keep this secret? Why would you let us believe you were struggling financially? Because I wanted to know who you really were, I replied simply. I wanted to know if you would love and care for an elderly woman who needed help, or if you would only tolerate me as long as I was not inconvenient or expensive. But this changes everything, Marcus said, his voice getting more agitated. If we had known you had resources, we could have hired home health care. We could have modified the house. We could have— You could have what, Marcus? I interrupted. You could have allowed me to stay in this house if you had known I was wealthy? That is not what I meant, Marcus said quickly. But we both knew it was exactly what he meant. Sophia was crying quietly. Mama, I am so sorry. I am so ashamed of what has happened here. Sophia, you have nothing to be ashamed of, I said gently. You wanted me to stay. You fought for me. You showed me your true character, and it is beautiful. I turned to Isabella, who was still staring at me in amazement. And you, mi amor, you defended your abuela even when you thought she was poor and sick and had nothing to offer except love. That tells me everything I need to know about the woman you are becoming. Finally, I looked at Marcus, who was still pacing and clearly trying to figure out how to salvage this situation. And you, Marcus, showed me exactly who you are when you think someone has nothing you want. Elena, I think there has been a misunderstanding, Marcus said, attempting to sound reasonable. I was only concerned about providing you with proper medical care. If I had known about your financial resources, you would have what? I asked. Treated me with more respect? Been kinder? Not tried to send me to a depressing state facility? Marcus stopped pacing and looked at me with what I can only describe as panic in his eyes. Elena, can we start over? Can we discuss new arrangements now that we understand your situation better? No, Marcus, I said firmly. We cannot start over. You revealed your true feelings about me, and I cannot forget what you said or how you made me feel. But you do not have to move out, he said desperately. You can stay here. We can hire help. We can make whatever modifications you need. Marcus, I said, standing up again, let me ask you a question. Are you suggesting these things because you genuinely care about my well-being, or because you have just learned that I am wealthy? Marcus looked like a trapped animal. Any answer he gave would reveal his true motivations, and he knew it. I see, I said when he remained silent. That is exactly what I thought. Isabella suddenly spoke up. Abuela, can I come live with you in your new house? The question hung in the air, like a challenge. Marcus and Sophia both turned to look at their daughter with shock. Isabella, you cannot be serious, Marcus said. I am completely serious, Isabella replied with the fierce determination I had seen in her since she was a little girl. Abuela is the most important person in my life, and if she is leaving, I want to go with her. Sophia looked devastated. Isabella, you cannot leave us. Why not? Isabella asked. Dad made it clear that Abuela was not welcome here anymore. If she is not welcome, then I do not want to be here either. I felt my heart swelling with love for this remarkable granddaughter, but I also knew I could not allow her to make this decision in anger. Isabella, mi amor, you belong with your parents, I said gently. But you are always welcome in my new home. You can visit whenever you want, and during the summers, if your parents agree, you can stay with me for extended periods. That is not the same thing, Isabella said, tears flowing down her cheeks. I want to take care of you, just like you took care of me all these years. Marcus was looking more panicked by the minute. Elena, surely we can work out some arrangement. Maybe you could keep your new house but still maintain a room here. Maybe we could— Marcus, stop, I said firmly. You made your decision when you thought I was poor and vulnerable. I am making my decision now that I know exactly who you are. I walked over to Isabella and hugged her tightly. Mi amor, I will be living 20 minutes away in Scottsdale. You can see me every day if you want to. This is not goodbye forever. When are you moving? Sophia asked through her tears. This weekend, I replied. My new house is already furnished and ready. This weekend? Marcus repeated. But Elena, we need time to discuss this properly. We need to what, Marcus? I asked. 2 weeks ago, you wanted me gone by the end of the month. Now I am leaving this weekend, exactly as you requested. The only thing that has changed is that you have learned I am not the poor, helpless burden you thought I was. As I walked toward the stairs to begin packing my belongings, Marcus called out one more time. Elena, please, can we at least discuss visitation arrangements? Can we talk about how to handle holidays and family gatherings? I turned back to look at him one final time. Marcus, you will always be welcome to visit me in my new home. But from now on, I will decide who I spend my time with based on who genuinely cares about me, not who wants access to my money. It is not about the money, he protested weakly. Yes, Marcus, I said sadly. It is exactly about the money. And that is the saddest part of all. As I climbed the stairs to pack my things, I could hear Marcus and Sophia beginning another argument. And I could hear Isabella crying. My heart was breaking for my granddaughter and my daughter. But I knew I was doing the right thing. Sometimes the people who claim to love you need to learn that love cannot be conditional on convenience or financial benefit. Marcus was about to learn that lesson in the most expensive way possible. It had been 6 months since I moved into my beautiful new home in Scottsdale, and my life had transformed in ways I could never have imagined. The house was a stunning single-story home with wide hallways, grab bars in every bathroom, and a state-of-the-art security system. I hired a wonderful housekeeper named Carmen, who was also a certified nursing assistant, and a part-time cook named James, who prepared heart-healthy meals that were truly delicious. My health improved dramatically under the care of Dr. Rebecca Chen, one of Arizona's leading cardiologists, and a team of specialists who managed my condition with the most up-to-date treatments and medications. I felt better than I had in years, and my energy levels were higher than they had been since before Carlos died. Isabella visited me every day after school, and most weekends she would spend the night in the beautiful guest room I had designed, especially for her. We cooked together, watched movies, and I continued to teach her about our family history and traditions. She had blossomed into an even more extraordinary young woman, and I could see her growing in confidence and independence. With each passing day, Sophia also visited us regularly, and we slowly rebuilt our relationship. She had apologized countless times for not standing up to Marcus more firmly, and I could tell she was genuinely embarrassed by the way the situation had been handled. She was also impressed with my home and kept saying she never realized how successful I was with my investments and real estate. Marcus, on the other hand, was increasingly desperate in his attempts to mend our relationship. He called constantly, sent flowers, and kept suggesting family dinners and vacations that we could all afford now. His transformation from a man who wanted to send me to a state-run nursing home to someone who acted as my devoted son-in-law was both pathetic and revealing. But the real surprise was yet to come, and it would come on a day that would start out like any other. I was sitting on my porch reading the newspaper when Carmen announced that I had a visitor. Ms. Martinez, there's a gentleman here to see you. He says he's from a law firm in Los Angeles. I wasn't expecting any visitors, especially not lawyers from California, but I asked Carmen to show him to my living room. The man who entered was tall and distinguished-looking, probably in his 60s, wearing an expensive suit and carrying a leather briefcase. Ms. Martinez, my name is William Harrison of Harrison, Burke and Associates in Los Angeles. Thank you for agreeing to see me without an appointment. How may I help you, Mr. Harrison? I asked, gesturing for him to sit on the couch across from my chair. Ms. Martinez, I represent the estate of Mr. Robert Chen, who passed away last month. Before you ask, no, you don't know Mr. Chen personally, but he certainly knew about you. I was completely confused. I'm sorry, Mr. Harrison, but I've never heard of Robert Chen. Why would his assets have anything to do with me? Mr. Harrison opened his briefcase and pulled out a thick folder. Ms. Martinez, Mr. Chen was a real estate developer who owned over 200 properties in the Los Angeles area. For the past 23 years, he had been trying to acquire 3 specific properties for a major development project. A cold feeling began to form in my stomach. What are the 3 properties? The 3 rental properties you own on Maple Street in Los Angeles, Mr. Harrison replied. Mr. Chen has made several offers to purchase them over the years, but has never been able to contact you directly, as all communications have been handled through your property management company. I remember receiving occasional letters over the years from various companies wanting to buy my properties, but I always ignored them. The properties were profitable and fully paid off, so I had no reason to sell them. Mr. Harrison, I still don't understand why you're here. Ms. Martinez. In his will, Mr. Chen left specific instructions regarding your properties. He discovered that you had owned them for about 5 years and had learned about your personal circumstances through research. What personal circumstances? I asked, although I was beginning to have a terrible feeling about where this conversation was going. He had learned that you were a widow living with your daughter's family and assumed, as most people do, that you were elderly and in need of, say, financial security. He left instructions that the estate should provide you with an amount that he believed would provide for your needs for the rest of your life. Mr. Harrison took out a document and handed it to me. Ms. Martinez, the Chen estate is willing to offer you $12 million for your 3 properties. I stared at the document in shock. $12 million. For properties that were bringing me $8,000 a month in rent, but were on land that was apparently worth far more than I had ever imagined. Mr. Harrison, are you telling me that my 3 rental properties are worth $12 million? Actually, Ms. Martinez, they are worth considerably more than that. The Chen property is being offered $12 million because that was the price Mr. Chen believed would ensure his financial security. The true market value, considering the location and development potential, is closer to $18 million. I felt dizzy. $18 million. Adding up my current assets, that offer would make me worth over $20 million. Ms. Martinez, do you need some time to consider this offer? Mr. Harrison asked kindly. Yes, I managed to say. I need to discuss this with my financial advisor and my attorney. Of course, Mr. Harrison said, standing up and handing me his business card. Please take your time. The offer will remain valid indefinitely. After Mr. Harrison left, I sat on my porch, staring at the document and trying to process what had just happened. $20 million. I would be one of the richest women in Arizona. But more importantly, I would be in a position to do something I had been dreaming about for months. I immediately called my attorney and asked him to come to my house that afternoon. When he arrived, I explained the situation and asked him to review the offer. Elena, this is an incredible gift, he said after reviewing the documents. This offer is legitimate and extremely generous. I highly recommend accepting it. I want to accept, I said, but I also want to make other arrangements. Over the next 2 hours, my lawyer and I drafted several documents that would change everything for my family. 3 days later, I invited Marcus, Sophia, and Isabella to my house for dinner on Sunday. I told them I had some important news to share, but I didn't elaborate. As we sat at the dinner table, enjoying the feast James had prepared, I noticed that Marcus was particularly cheerful and friendly. He had been this way for months, constantly trying to ingratiate himself to me now that he knew of my wealth. Elena, this is an amazing meal, he said, raising his wine glass. You've really created a beautiful life for yourself here. Thank you, Marcus, I replied. I have some news that I think will interest all of you. What kind of news, Mom? Sophia asked. I picked up the folder Mr. Harrison had left with me. I've received an offer to sell my rental properties in Los Angeles. That's wonderful, Marcus said immediately. Real estate in Los Angeles. Must be very valuable. Yes, it is, I agreed. The offer is $12 million. The silence that followed was complete. Marcus dropped his fork. Sophia gasped. Isabella gaped at me. $12 million? Sophia whispered. Yes, I confirmed. I accepted the offer this morning. Marcus was staring at me with an expression I could only describe as hunger. Elena, that's amazing. Congratulations. Thank you, I said, but that's not the only news I have. I picked up another folder and pulled out several documents. I've also made some decisions about my estate planning. Mommy. You don't need to discuss this now, Sophia said quickly. You're going to live for many more years. I hope so, I agreed. But at 71, with a heart condition, it's important to have my affairs in order. I handed Isabella a document. My love, I want you to know that I have set up a trust fund for your education. There is enough money in this fund to pay for any college or university you choose, including graduate school if you choose to do. So, Isabella began to cry. Grandma, this is too much. It is exactly enough, I said firmly. Education is the most important gift I can give you. I handed Sophia another document. Sophia, I have set aside money for you too. Enough to ensure that you will never have to worry about financial security again, no matter what happens, in your marriage. Sophia looked at the document and began to sob. Mommy, I don't deserve this after what happened. You deserve it because you are my daughter, and because when it mattered most, your heart was in the right place, I said. Finally, I turned to Marcus, who was watching the conversation with obvious anticipation. Marcus, I have something for you too. I handed him a single sheet of paper. He looked at her anxiously, then his expression changed to confusion, then to something close to horror. What is this? He asked. This is a bill, I said calmly. For 8 years of room and board, utilities, groceries, and household. Expenses that I contributed to your family. I calculated the fair market value of what I contributed minus what I actually paid, and the balance comes to $47,000. Marcus stared at the document as if it were written in a foreign language. Elena, I don't understand. It's quite simple, Marcus. You made it clear that you viewed our relationship as a financial transaction. You wanted me gone because you believed I would be expensive. So I'm treating our past relationship as the business arrangement you apparently thought it was. But Elena, I never asked you to pay rent or... No, you didn't ask me to pay rent, but you also made it clear that the only reason you tolerated my presence was because I was useful and inexpensive. Now that I'm no longer living in your house, I'm charging you for the services I provided. Sophia stared at her husband with a disgusted expression. Marcus, this is what you get for treating my mother like a business transaction. But Elena, Marcus stammered, I thought, with the money from the sale of the property, I thought you might be feeling generous. I'm feeling very generous, I replied. I just gave your wife and daughter more money than most people see in a lifetime. But you, Marcus, taught me that generosity should be reserved for those who love you unconditionally. Not for those who only appreciate you when you have something they want. I stood up and walked to the window overlooking my beautiful garden. Marcus, you spent 2 weeks trying to get me into a public home because you thought I was poor. You made me feel unwanted and unwelcome in what I thought was my family home. You showed me exactly what kind of person you are when you think someone has nothing to offer. I turned to face him. Now you know what kind of person I am when I have everything to offer. Marcus looked around the table, desperate, as if Sophia or Isabella could somehow help him out of this situation. But Sophia was looking at him with disappointment, and Isabella was looking at him with something that might have been contempt. Elena, please, he said finally. I made a mistake. I was wrong about everything. Can we start over, please? No, Marcus, I said firmly. We can't start over, but I'm going to make you one last offer. Hope shone in his eyes. What kind of offer? You have 30 days to pay me the $47,000 you owe me. If you pay in full, I will A. Consider our accounts settled, and we can try to build a civil relationship for the sake of Sophia and Isabella. What if I can't pay? he asked. Then you will learn what it's like to be hounded by debt collectors and have your financial problems become someone else's burden, I replied. Just like you wanted my medical bills to be someone else's burden. As Marcus sat there staring at the bill, I realized that justice sometimes comes in the most unexpected ways. He had tried to get rid of me when he thought I was poor and sick. Now he would have to face the consequences of his greed and callousness. Isabella suddenly spoke up. Dad, you should pay Grandma what she owes her. It's the right thing to do. Isabella, $47,000 is a lot of money, Marcus said weakly. Then you shouldn't have treated Abuela like she was worthless, Isabella replied with the brutal honesty I loved so much. As I looked around the dinner table at my family, I realized that money didn't bring me happiness. It revealed their true colors. Sophia and Isabella had shown me a genuine love that had nothing to do with my wealth. Marcus had shown me that his affection was entirely dependent on what I could do for him. The $12 million from the sale of the property would allow me to live comfortably for the rest of my life and take care of the people I loved. But more importantly, it gave me the power to teach Marcus that treating people as disposable has consequences. Sometimes the best revenge is not getting angry. Sometimes the best revenge is getting rich enough to show people exactly who they really are. And Marcus was about to learn that lesson in the most expensive way possible.